We also have a journal for so there's a specific revenue picture of thing is this year. This is found
Not that I think I need a mic, but I'll use it anyway. For all of you in the back. All right, good morning. My name is Nikki Winslow. I'm the district director here for the Altadena Library District, and I'm very happy to be here to welcome all of you to our wonderful main library with the Altadena Library District. I'm going to start out by reading our land acknowledgement statement. This is the abbreviated statement. The Altadena Library District acknowledges our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We commit to learning, educating, and informing our staff and the residents of Altadena about the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, present and past. So again, welcome. Thank you. The mission of the Altadena Library District is to bring people and ideas together. And I can't think of a better way to do that than through poetry and art and all of the wonderful things we're going to be doing today. Our vision is an Altadena where all of us are learning, growing, and thriving together. And I know that I continue to learn through the programming that the staff has organized. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with Peter and Carla, our new Poets Laureates, for these 2 years. Yeah. And we have the OG, right? The originator, Polly Dutton in the back. The program was, the Poets Laureate program was started, I think, in 2003 or 2004. Do you remember? Something like that. Yeah. And thankfully, our friends at the Altadena Libraries have financially and provided support in many other ways to the program to keep it going. We survived through the pandemic, which I think was excellent, and created like a virtual footprint too, which our values of the Altadena Library District are equity, empathy, and innovation. And I think by expanding beyond print, which we're going to continue with as well, we made it a much more equitable and open program for everybody. So I'm Just so glad to be here to welcome all of you. I don't want to take up more of the programming time. So I will introduce Carla Seaman, one of our Poets Laureates. Oh, and before, sorry, I almost forgot. Although our two libraries are gems of the community, which I think we'd all agree, we do have some serious accessibility issues and are going to be renovating both libraries in the next few years. We have a survey that I would love to see people provide your feedback and thoughts on what you'd like to see built into those two renovations. I'm going to put these out in the back. You just scan the QR code. We have them in English and Spanish. And I highly encourage you to fill them out so that we're building in even more perspective around what these buildings should look like and the flexibility for services far into the future. So if you don't know, this library just turned 50. So we want to future-proof it for the next at least 55 years. So thank you, and sorry, Carla. Come on up.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you. We're so appreciative of the library for being such wonderful hosts of this program. I want to just tell you a little bit about what's coming up. After today, we're going to, on November 19th, there's going to be a workshop led by Peter Harris called Synergies. And we're actually going to have a dancer and musician as living prompts. So we're there, and that kind of ties in nicely with the direction that right now the Altadena Poetry Review is going, in that we're asking you to go online, and for those of you who write poetry and want to submit, and you will see an array of wonderful music and artwork, and you're asked to write to that, whatever is inspired from that. And maybe Peter will say things about that. But then in January, we're going to have a workshop led by Sochi on poetic forms, how to write to forms, how they can be actually, it sounds restrictive at times, but it can actually be freeing. And then you can write to them and then break those forms. And then I'm going to be doing a reading in February with several guests, like with a nod to Women Who Submit, a wonderful organization for any of you women, non-binary writers, supports, it's called Women Who Submit, and supports women to submit to literary magazines. And then we're going to have a reading by poetry couples in March, that is March 21st. So couples who write poetry together and how that works in life and relationships. If you like that idea, huh?
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe next time we'll have like poetry stepchildren. Poetry. So it is wonderful to introduce. We have such a great trio here. I am really excited to hear from them. We have Shahid Mankarian. And of course, Poet Laureate Peter J. So, you also, I think, have a handout there with more detailed bios. If you want to find out more about our readers, but right now you're going to learn a lot listening to them. So, welcome.
Wind sings through the gap in her teeth. Hurricanes rest in the black of her eyes. Snow melts on the griddle of her skin. Laughter flies in the side of her voice. Birds beg to nest in her soft hair. Rain washes the ground before her every step. All roads soften under her footsteps. New dances live in her every step. Colors cry for joy in her presence. Noise forgets its sound in her presence. Fog blankets all that is evil in her world. Sunlight hibernates in the lines of her frown. Earth calms its orbit at the sound of her cry. All fathers to proper names in your home. Secret lives. Wind sings through the gap in her teeth. Hurricanes rest in the black of her eyes. Snow melts on the griddle of her skin. Laughter flies in the side of her voice. Birds beg to nest in her soft hair. Rain washes the ground before her every step. All roads soften under her footsteps. New dances live. Colors cry for joy. Noise forgets sound of presence. Fog, blankets, all that is evil in the world. Sunlight hibernates in the lines of her frowns. Earth calms its orbit. Earth calms its orbit. Earth calms its orbit at the sound of her cry. All fathers chant your praise to proper names in your own sacred lives. All fathers chant praise to proper names in your own sacred lives.
Oh. Came into his tea until it is exactly the color of my shoulder. He holds the mug to my skin. We make a dance of storm. Love is the music of strings, the taste of everything my lovers jot and sleep. His calves are the torrid kindness of spring. I hold them against me in the bath. This is one way we say love is an echo. Our bodies against each other in sleep or apart as the night progresses form the letters of an alphabet. Each letter is a word unto itself. My head against your chest as the song a whale sings into the earth's ear. The arches of our feet meeting is the sound of laughter. Love is the spell woven from my dismantled armor, which is a dress that arson. He learned to sleep with a gun between his legs, kicked the sergeant in the teeth in his sleep when he tried to take it from him. I sleep in the gun's place. This is the language we formed together. Love is not knowing this word, but trusting it will taste of cardamom, honey. It is the lost wolf's prayer to the moon. It is the pause in which I wait for the moon to answer back.
Mother did not always have Medusa curls. The black and white picture before marriage shows mother smiling, content, with darker hair, with generous lips, her eyes in focus. This was mother before marriage, before 1964, before father serenaded her in jazz clubs all along the rocky seashores of Rauschen. This was mother with no children, no peacock husband, no war in Lebanon. This was her with bruiseless neck and tumorless breast. This was a woman, ageless. She did not drive, she walked, shooting dust on peacocks, her head erect, not tilted nor dyed. This was a woman I did not know, existed once before this picture, smiled and was captured.
A love supreme searches through sorrow, found porn, lines drawn from advertisements by formerly enslaved African Americans seeking reunion with their sold off kin. Information wanted. I will be most thankful. Any person or persons knowing anything of importance of my parents, of my father, of my sister, of our 5 children, of my daughter. Sold to a man named, was left with a traitor named, a traitor named human being. Was last heard of 13 years ago, some 20 odd years ago, at Halifax Courthouse in 1851, human traitor in that place. Any person or persons knowing concerning the missing parties I was owned by, my mother was owned by, I was sold, separated when I was 5 years old from Nashville, 15 miles below New Orleans. I earnestly request to their congregations from their pulpits. Ministers, Christian churches will do a favor by announcing different pastors, especially presiding over Southern churches, to read this notice. And now go by the name of, as the hand of time steals over me now so rapidly, I wish to see my dear ones once more. Any information will be thankfully received, gladly received by the sorrowing mother.
Dear friend, insert your name here. Where still there's salt on your hands, still the cage of air that fills you, that keeps you here. Friend, you've lost so much that each picture has become a waterfall of minutes, of uncounted blessings we thought we were owed until they slipped down the world, down the river, out of sight. Tell me where it hurts, where the caverns have opened like a god's mouth within the private spaces of your songs. Here, take my song, eat of my breath, my blessed cage. Drop your arms and walk towards me, and I will undress my defenses. O grief, O finger of lightning, O weight of the sea, friend, sit with me, our mouths open as house fires, strip the air of its endlessness. Tell me what lives behind the door at the foot of the stairs. Tell me how the song ends. Forgive me my cheap blood, my brief bones, the room of your mind I live in, which you'll one day find empty.
They shove us in line to investigate. My blue uniform feels tight, stiff. It's only Monday morning. I wonder if they'll catch us by Friday afternoon. I can't wiggle my toes in my uncle's hand-me-down shoes. He sells vinyl records near the bridge. I hum Dancing Queen to distract myself from the probing eye of the principal. Mother made me eat 2 boiled eggs this morning. I taste leftovers tucked between the gaps of my teeth. I close my eyes to review the stupid poem I had to memorize the night before. They could never read my heart. We broke rulers, altar boys, when we played hooky from the church. We removed the window screen that separated the alley from the classroom. On Sundays, we were kings, but today we're being questioned, threatened. They pull my sideburns, but I don't care. I would die first. They can give me 1,000 poems to memorize, 1,000,000 standards to write over and over. I will not break rulers. I will not break rulers. I will not break rulers.
At city crossroads, joy lifts baggy clothes into smiling balloons, awe trailing like string dancing in the wind. All of our lives whipped into moraine by teenage recklessness, drenched with mesmerizing sight of love on display, holding hands like human beings, unhinged from tragic theory. At the corner of win and lose, glorious passion waits for light to turn gold. Riveting theater in their stroll, smoother than wheelchairs stopping traffic, stepping through crosshairs until crosswalk releases. At unexpected intersections, the Black man of happiness catches stories right before intonation shapes words, stands in the flow that melts cataracts and shows hidden insistence seized by the grammar of submission, awed, porous, magnetic. Ptah, first island among waters of chaos, absorbing shock of creation in everyday lives, converting atom of thought into power and voice, released from rules of thumb by shifting voices within the waters, whose guidelines subvert all rules, change the only mortar for protection, holding together life, death between the blooms. You know it, baptized, sculpted, sifting pits and stems for fruit above waterline, legs wrapped around submerged roots, anchored, swaying in mother breeze of first meetings, shape of destiny rippling across democracy's mural, still sweating the back of his eyes, offering no explanation beyond the tingle of invention, fearing no weariness, even within deep memory of being quarry for dogs and hysteria, consoled by ferocious humanity at the crossroads of creation and death. The Black man of happiness, voyeur translating the surreal privacies of our living metropolis. ID card, a moody hologram tinted in everybody's complexion. Face wet in witness the daily rites of passage, intoxicated by our sophisticated lives, naked with peaceful recognition. Oh yes, game to face dogs, game to face hysteria, to safety, protected always, always by the commanding serenity comes from waiting with whatever the water brings, holding hands when a fist is needed, unclenching when it's time to just know what needs.
Love letter to spring. My dearest unmade bed, deep in the ground, sweet funeral for the mass, the staff, the armor, the cassette tapes, the front door of my childhood home. How is it that we always seem to find our way apart? I taste it when you dream of me, copper and rose hips high in the gums. You say my name and loosen. Oh, magnesium in the muscle. Oh, professor of jagged rocks. Oh, smaller, harder death, diamond death. You terrify me like dawn. What would I do without you? Goddess of knees, of ruffled mercy, of truest aim, you break apart the sky in your hands and feed me the wings of sparrows. You take me whole into the furnace of your mouth. You slip between me and the air, your brief perfume, your kiss that ends the world, that creates the world. Your hand me from me, your tongue against my tongue, the coins you take from my eyes, you usher me to the winning side.
I got my schooling at the morgue, a summer job my mother thought would keep the streets out of her son. It was a booming business, death. This was 1975. The Civil War was brewing and morticians needed a better help. I was in charge of clipping nails. Old toes and fingers had to look pristine. With rubbing alcohol and cotton balls, I cleaned and washed dry blood from children with no legs, from men who went to work at dawn and never found their way back home, their faces like shoes with no soles. I smiled because I didn't know another way to deal with shock. Some afternoons, I sat on slabs of marble, eating feta cheese and moldy bread, and watching wives identifying faceless men as mates, and mothers who, like doves, descended slowly on their silent corpses. Then I wondered if mother would look for me when the evening came. Would she remember that I was her only son and that I cleaned boys my own age? I witnessed death before I could live. Mother, stay awake. I'm among the dead. He lives. He lives. He lives.
Okay, so good morning. The power of Beth Marquez, please be good. Power Shahay Marquez. Wow. I want to take a break now for a second, breathe with y'all. I want you to know a little bit about what you're experiencing. It's a tad different from the average or the typical format for poetry readings. I want to give you a sense of why we do it, why this particular format. One of the things that is so profound, for me at least, about poetry is that it drops you into different dimensions. You know, at the snap of a finger, at the utterance of one word, as the inhale of one breath. And as you can see, I've been around a minute. Not just graduated from high school or college. So I've been giving this a lot of thought for a long time. And I have come to this deep personal conclusion that the poetry needs to really be prioritized in these settings. So what I asked these brilliant colleagues to do as we talked a little bit and we confirmed as we met today is forego the introductions, forego anything much more than entitlement, forego the sort of nervous need to tell a long story about a poem. Trust the poetry, trust the time you spent meditating on the word choice, trust the reading you have done, the study you have done, trust the dance of voice, language, silence, and let those poems breathe with you presenting them, so that the audience folks can just be with you. You can turn it off. Tech Laureate is on. By the way, Jesse is a published poet himself. He's a fine scholar in his own right, dean curator of a lot of work going on here in the city, in the region. So we're super happy to have him. But he did not buy that camera. We love our library teammates, but somehow they chose one that should have been left in the box. So what we want to do is just sort of let you know that what we wanted to do for you today is we have our beautiful guests and newcomers. We're just meeting some of you. So happy to have Ms. Dutton here, who started this whole program here, this Laureate program. That, you know, Carl and I talked long and hard. We had never worked together, and we worked ethically and candidly to figure out how to make sure that we were presenting a dynamic and vital cross-section of writers here in the region. And we're super proud of our season, and we're super proud of what we're offering through the lens of Southern California poetry in particular. We, of course, both, Carl is a nationally known, international, she's an internationalist. So you'll get a chance to hear her work in the February featured reading, and I'll get a chance to introduce her and all of what she brings, as she did today. So I won't overdo this explanational stuff, but I did want to make sure you understood beyond your viscera. This is an actual decision, a certain way of presenting poetry. And now, many years ago, in 1999 and through 2004, I actually produced a radio program for KPFK that was called Inspiration House, which is where Shahan and I met. And the last time I saw him was when we were on that show together. And the only rule was bring a whole lot of your work and don't plan the presentation. And be open to what the music inspired you to pick in the moment. And so that's what we're doing today, is listening to one another. And I hope you can feel the resonances and power. I certainly can. It's just breathtaking. So we're going to do another round, and then we'll stop again, and then we'll talk to you guys. And you can ask questions of these brilliant folks, and we can sort of get to know each other, because there are writers and artists in the room. And we always, you know, in my opinion, want to be cultivating ethical community when we're together under the banner of poetry. We always want writers and artists to know fellow writers and artists, community workers, because scientists, y'all don't know, she's a scientist too. Read that bio. Yeah, math teachers in the back, tutors for our community. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, now I got a damn. Not much of a problem, but we don't want to start poetry while we're still doing all this. Now you get to witness the tech laureate in full stride, because me and Carla, we know what. We looked at the stream and thing and said, if there's somebody you can call. Well, I'm gonna also take advantage of the mic a bit to tell you, one, Shahé has his book here, and certainly hope you'll purchase it if you're able. Beth doesn't have her book here, and actually I just published the book myself. But I don't have any copies here with me, but I just decided to read to you. I want to also tell you a marvelous quick story about Altadena. Last weekend, there was a marvelous festival produced by the African Village Shop down in Laureate. And right behind the stores, there were all these venues and all of these artists. And there was a place to be like music, stage and whatnot. So I'm just sort of weaving through, inviting people to this thing and saying hi, buying food and whatnot. So I run into a marvelous young couple. Jesse, I think we can surrender, bro. It's not that serious. Next time you'll come to the reading. If they're, of course, in good health. It's really quite the trance. JPL, where you at? Because JPL when you need him. Hey man, unless this thing can get fixed fast, we're good. It's real. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's your name, Jim? Aaron. Aaron, you with the staff or you with the CIA? We have a mental struggle. Yeah, man. Let's turn it off, bro. I'm doing executive decision making. That means it's just us now. And this young couple right here, I'm gonna embarrass them. I love doing this. Tell me your name again.
Wade.
Brother Wade has a new book out. It's much thicker than mine. And his beloved is named literally, well, she's not named after my grandmother, but her name is the same as my grandmother, Levine. Is that correct? Did I pronounce it? Well, anyway, they're here. I literally just browbeat them. And I said to my young poet friend, bro, if you're going to be writing poetry in the Southern California region, and you're here selling your book at our festival, don't just settle for marketing and reading at the mic. Come and join us. Be a part of the community. Get to know Gloria Alvarez. Is that who that is? I can't see why. Is that you, Gloria? Oh my God. So you want to meet her because she is a marvelous old OG poet in our community, who is a breathtaking writer and a breathtaking cultural. So that's why you're here. And his beloved makes these marvelous bookmarks. Would you hold one of them? Y'all didn't expect y'all was gonna get a commercial. That's what poetry do, it opens us up. But she makes these marvelous bookmarks. So who knows? Maybe you'll want to check in with her before she leaves. So that's how we do it. Poetry is just a part of the community. It's not privileged beyond certainly these folks today. We're virtuosos at what we do. Let's not play. But this is work. This is study. This is also humbling to the work, humbling to our editors and teachers. So if you're hearing good stuff, understand it's not magic. You know, the Lord didn't come down and just anoint us and suddenly a poem is in a book. We actually may commune with the Lord, but in fact, this work, now I can definitely say these are brilliant colleagues. I'm so honored to know them. But that even in our community, we're editing it all. And we want to make sure you understand that kind of energy, So, all right, who knows what we read? We're going to do another round Y'all down? Y'all okay?
Yeah.
Are they bad or what? Let's just. What is the phrase? My legacy as a physical man. Amazed along edges of wet and dry. Wild respiration, exorcising worry from tentative lungs. My legacy as physical. Sweating disciple, prostrated before fulfillment, stretched outside sin, astonished witnessed to the troubled wonder of decoding touch.
Ghostwire. How did you die? White cuff of lace, face of Nile waters, the wan touch of plague and moon about your eyes. Christ, it all comes down to what room you choose. Your husband a mansion you never could see all of, but hitched your wagon to anyway. Ghost, how close have I come to wearing your dress, to laying down my throat in the same wager as you. The wrong love can split us into more than one of ourselves. It's always been this way. The women bring us to the water again and again, and still one of us, which is all of us, wager unwisely and lip, foot, ring, finger, lose the skin we wear to sing. Wife, you haunt me in the shower, and the bed sheets your tremble pushes to the surface until I can open the folds and bring you through, until I build a room that swells shut with your flood, until we make a grave together with our chapped and wanting hands. I will be sure to your shipwrecked blood, until we soften the earth of your death, callous, breath, shovel, and stirrup, the hunted rope, naming his neck. We are all the dress, the singing skin, the war the river fights against the mud. If I take you now, each cell of my mansion will flood. If I leave you here, mirror, stormline, chestnut, child, how could I say you didn't warn me? That if we love our blindness, if we lay our throats down, then we are what kills us. We are what drowns.
A conversation with Taha Muhammad Ali. I tell him, my father is from Haifa. I already know this from your hazel eyes. Your mother must have drank olive oil during pregnancy. He smiles. Who's your father? Nazareth. Like my city, he says, but no coincidence. You and I have the same wild blueberries, pomegranates, and black pitless cherries in our blood. I misunderstand, pitiless. I say father died in 94. I know this, he says, because you never buried him. He still lives on your tongue. When you come to Nazareth, we'll lay him to rest behind the church, deep in the overgrown lilacs.
On sidewalks, in the marketplace, as humble pedestrians, we are talk, blending language to our bidding, grammar, syntax muffled with common terms, common signs, common meanings, up under, shuddering, shattering. We are acoustic genius moment. Wordless, surging promises, throbbing autobahn. Something ferocious, something delicious. Let other people dwell on their helpless surfaces. Kneel and pray to hear the drumming between us. Covet the sound circling from our fluent chemical skin. Their protocol, their hesitation, complicated by our patent leather disdain. Our promenade is syncopated teasing, cunning beats scratched from suspense amplify our multiplication. Other people go insane, surging, swooping to our fandango. Still beg to hum the music emanating from our deep wordless jam. Wrong ears burn at the music we compose. Sun blind spies trafficking gossip about us. Wind sweeps away memories of people who mean us harm. Mountains crumble warnings to any with prying dispositions. Alone within our consecrated circumference, whirlpools leap from a cappella proverbs, falsetto water bubbles, ferocious, drumming, delicious between us. Our reverberating momentum is a quiet at rest.
Aunt Georgia was tall as a skyscraper, smelled of sugar cookies, lilacs, and Virginia Slims. The dresses were always floral print, her nails smart, sharp as her tongue or credit cards. Georgia made ground beef and ketchup, rolled sticky rice between salted fingers, never spoke Spanish because my mother forbade it, but taught me how to shuffle cards and curse softly like a lady. She never married and never let on how the large bed she bought felt empty. Georgia was not a small person. She could pick the lock of an ex's lover. She could clean a bedroom of evidence or wipe the smirk off a white man's face. I was 7 when she died. The cancer too fast to take her fire engine hair. The last guy, the one with the IROC Z and big belt buckles, kissed her like an orphan sucks the marrow from a bone, and was halfway to Flagstaff by the time the hospice nurse arrived. Sweet girl, she said, play the hand you dealt, never let them see you cry. She wrapped the chain of the pendant around my small fist and said, see you when I see you.
A new dance in old clothes. I see Mama sway in a satin dress with faces of sickly chrysanthemums on the seams. He, clean shaven, wears the tattered suit, the one he wore on his wedding in 1963. Mama cries on father's shoulder, as if she cannot forget the secret admirer. Beirut is dead, she heaves. Father caresses Mama's marigold hair and says, America is safe, like an underground shelter. As I watch them, I rest my head on a suitcase full of Lebanon. I don't trust the quiet, Mama whispers. Like our disobedient sheepdog, I don't want to sleep because I don't want to miss the kiss. Farid El Atrash serenades the war-torn couple as father pulls mama's waist to close the gap.
Got a break just to say this. If you can just imagine sitting in a radio studio with headsets, sitting in another radio studio with headsets, some beautiful mild Davis or something funny, and that voice arcing out over Southern California. Bruh, both of y'all, man, this that moment, I had to get it up. Okay, I'm so happy to have a friend here from JPL. And it just thrills me. We did some work together. I'm gonna embarrass you. Tracy Drain is here. She works for JPL. We're on a spacecraft in space because of her. She's a, what did she say, systems engineer. Okay, I've never met one until I met her, but now she's here at poetry. But I set all that up. It's super rare for me, but I want to read a short excerpt from a newspaper article from 1980, which is almost a poem in itself, but it inspired this. So, from the Washington Post, November 13, 1980, headline, braided Saturn ring astounds scientists. Pasadena, California, quote, it defies the laws of orbital mechanics as I understand them, but two components of the fifth ring out are braided, said Dr. Bradford Smith. Blah, blah, blah. He continues. If the distributions of these braids is uniform around the entire ring, then there are as many as 1,000 braids in the ring. Not only is the fifth ring in braids, Smith said, but the 500-mile-long braids appear to have kinks in them. Smith said that as bizarre as the braids are, the kinks are even more bizarre. He says, if you look closely, you see abrupt bends in the braids as if somebody took the surface and bent it. I don't even pretend to understand what this means. 1980, who knows? Now they know it's new. What's the second one? The Hubble was first. What's this new one out there slogan? Yeah, maybe the web shows that a real person was sitting in the brain. That's what poets do. This is called Don't Even Pretend. The Saturn thing. Saturn's rings was all nappy. Spread out from her head, like she just woke up, took a shower and ain't dry. Dreadlocks, cluttered with moons, meteors. Oh, sorry, it's 12 moons. Sorry, I thought it was all. That's my grateful reminder. I'm grateful to be here with y'all. Dreadlocks cluttered with moons, meteors, mysteries. So God, she said, girl, now you know I can't let you be orbiting around me looking like that. Suppose we have company. What are they gonna think of me? God took off from work, unscrewed her Afro sheen jar, washed her comb and pick, sat under constellations, and told Saturn to sit on the space between her legs. Honey, I got to plait your rings, even if I miss a day's pay. God got to cornrowing Saturn's rings. And nothing more coaxing than God's hands. Spreading each ring into 3 strands, sifting through rocks that was worlds eons ago. She fingered Afro sheen down the softening scalp, loosening crusty moon stuck in orbit. She started humming Nina Simone while threading wisdom down each row. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. Hands so knowing, tug, twist, twirl those knotty rings and saddles you don't mind. Just listen to the lyrics and feel tight lightness creeping along her scalp, down her back into infinity. Saturn closes her eyes and feel peaceful like when God rubbed her palms for the 6th time and rolled rings from the swirls and the fingerprints of each hand. Here comes the sun, little daughter. Here comes the sun. God weave bright beads, baubles and shells, yellow curves, purple swoops, blue loops decorate the arcs, spreading now like the stiff necklaces around the throats of Maasai's sisters. There, child, I am finished. My, you look like a magic pinwheel bracing space. Here, look in my corona and see how pretty you are. God hummed and sighed. She got to rest these few more hours. Work again tomorrow. Smiling early from the east, glinting off Saturn's wings, like a fawn darting quenched from a water hole and back into the forest.
La Luna. I look to the sky, but she's not there. I know that she travels, rising sometimes behind a telephone pole, sometimes in the gap between trees, but no, she's not there either. Not dipping to the skyscrapers, not pitching her soft breast into the mountain's peak. So I go looking. There's a trail of roses dotting the sea floor, a haze of diamond dust just outside his last apartment. Ah, I think she's around here somewhere. The bartender at the White Horse recognizes her, but hasn't really seen her since she was a kid, except for in movies. The parking structure seems likely. She's always been a little in love with the stairwell, but it just shakes its head and lights a cigarette. After all, no one takes a breakup all that well. The jukebox swears she's been in, ordering rosé, making the thin boys howl. But in the next bar, the light flickers, then goes out. All the mouths is about to kiss start to bleed a little, and everyone drifts an inch off the floor. Ah, there you are. I find her making a cathedral of the alley. She strips me of all my shy blinks, the rough medicine of men's songs, leads me like a conquistador, like a siren wolf, with hunger's wide sails to the sea.
Thank God for Judas. During the Passion Play tryouts, even Susan, who loved to bite boys, wanted to play Jesus. She insisted her long hair and the contour of her waist seemed perfect for the cross. But she was fat, and no one dared to say that to her face. Even Mrs. Shinorik had difficulty dissuading her. Susan's parents were lawyers and controlled the principal with letters of threat. I didn't care. I secretly liked Susan. She smelled like buttery croissants when I sat next to her. Everyone knew she'd get the part, so I couldn't wait to play Judas and kiss at rehearsal.
So what we want to do now is ask you to stand, please, just to breathe with us. We have entered our hour number 2. You know, we have really stayed real concentrated on the work. Because we have really smart people in the audience and folks who are out in the world doing very interesting things. We have this wonderful opportunity. We'd like to invite you to sort of read and let's ask a few questions of folks. And we will do, and after we do that, we'll do one more round and then we'll ask you to consider buying Shahid's book. Buying Lavinia's bookmark, because you're gonna need one if you buy the book. And then we'll do a little bit more business before we start the next round and talk with just to sort of encourage the poets in the room to consider embracing what we're asking contributors to the Altadena Poetry Review to do this year. We changed a bit. This is the first year we're doing this. We invited a cohort of artists. We're about ready to put up another cohort. We have tons of, well, we'll never get as many people as we can find as are out there making work. We're just 2 volunteer poet laureates after all. But we want to encourage our poets in the room. In fact, anybody, frankly, if you were moved. You know, in the literary world, writing poems about art is called ekphrastic poetry. This is one of those words that makes my teeth great. What we're trying to do, though, instead, is sort of invite you to think bigger and deeper and more dimension about creating work in synergies with other artists as a member of the community, of the artistic and creative community. So, as Carla mentioned at the top, what you would do is you go to the Altadena Poetry Review. You click on something called the Synergy Portfolio, and you will land first on this marvelous photograph by a local Pasadena photographer named Isabel Avila. And it was actually on the cover of, what's 2019, I think? It was on the cover of the 2019 or 20, it had to be the 19, I think it was before the 2 laureates who had to deal with the pandemic. And it's a beautiful photograph of a woman holding acorns. Isabel allowed us to use it. And then you click on that entry button, and you'll see artwork and some music. Actually, by Carla's marvelous trumpet teacher. What's his name? Bill Bing. Mr. Bill Bing. There's some beautiful music by Mr. Bing. And there's music by Ed Barberina, who is from here in Altadena. So please, we hope you'll go to that Synergy Portfolio and work through the braiding word ekphrastic and embrace the softer, more inspiring word in synergy and flow with the artwork. And you know, you would have to write a really bad new poem for you not to be published. And so you know that if you take the time to generate new work, you have taken seriously the call that Carla has embraced. And we invite you to do that. We will, there are no deadlines, we have rolling deadlines. You write your poem at whatever pace, you submit it, we'll read it, and soon we'll publish it. We're about to start publishing a few folks already. We're happy to say that one of our former laureates, Thelma, Thelma Rainey has written poems for us. So anyway, okay, thanks for standing. If you're going to stay with us, please return to your seat. And if you have any questions about our guests, if not, we'll jump right back in. Okay, we have someone.
I guess I'm Frank from Ghana.
Hi, Frank.
And I've known Peter since he was little, so I'm as old as the hills. So my question for you is, at what age did you know you could write? At what age did you know that?
Me or everybody?
You and everybody, yeah, all
Okay.
three, yeah, all three would be good, yeah. At what age?
Well, I'll start. I don't want to be on, I don't want to, so I can do it this way so we all can talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're not streaming anymore, so.
No, we still are, just audio only.
Sorry. Okay, tech laureate, I told you he was.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, Frank, I mean, I think I published the first thing in a school newspaper in third grade. But I didn't really begin to think about poetry until I had graduated from college, where I studied journalism at Howard University in Bison in House. Okay, East Coast by sorry. I knew poets. In fact, Hakeem Madhubuti was on campus in those days and as an artist in residence. Hakeem was a very important member of what now is looked back on as something called the Black Arts Movement. But I didn't really know him, and I didn't know poets that well. I moved to Baltimore to work for a newspaper, and I began to meet poets. And that's when I began to hear the call of creative writing that would morph into poetry. I still consider myself a newspaper reporter, knowing what the truth is, because it's at that core, that love of who, what, when, where, why, and how, is at the core of my storytelling, hope or hopefulness. But also I have a love of language. My father was a great storyteller. My mother was a great storyteller. And I was grateful to study with people who really took editing seriously. So maybe I'll share with you guys. That question is wrong.
So I learned how to read and write at a very young age. So by the time I was 2, I was making my own little books. We would now call them zines, making little drawings and telling stories, and you know, I had my own imprint. It was Beth Books.
Okay.
Very original. And I got into reading poetry when I was in like 6th grade. And so started writing really terrible stuff when I was like 12. And when I was 14 in 1994, I went to Lollapalooza and there was a spoken word tent. And I spent the entire day in that tent. And it introduced me to something called slam, which is poetry, which is performed and then rated on a scale of 1 to 10 by random audience members. And for some reason, this completely irrational setup is what hooked me. And I started going to poetry readings around Orange County, where I lived at the time. By the time I was 16, I was hosting one of the biggest readings in Orange County, and sort of was off to the races. So that's kind of like how my entry and my foray in my early life into writing.
Well, very similar to Beth. Very young, I started very young as a writer. Because at my house, and you can tell from my poems, I grew up in Lebanon, a very Armenian household. There were books everywhere. I mean, my dad just collected books from Armenia, the Armenian writers, the British writers, the Russian writers. So there were books on the rent. The calmest I would see my dad was when I was. So I used to think, what's in those? And I'm probably 3-4 years old. And I used to think, why is it so? I mean, I would say Dad, and wouldn't even look at me. There was so much inside those. So what I started doing was, I guess, subconscious, I started writing things and I would put them in these books. So that he would read and notice me as a child. But we came to America, which was the funniest thing. And you would think you would bring clothes, and my dad just packed boxes and boxes of books, and he brought them to America. And by then I went to high school, I had to learn a second language. And to me, I realized the easiest way to learn a new language is through poetry. Because with these short lines, with these punctuation, you don't have to be perfect at it. You can actually mess up on the grammar and it's okay. So it was a great way to start learning a new language. And then I went to Pasadena High School. My teacher was Dr. Reyna. And she took me to my thinking and writing. And then I went to Pasadena City College and I had Ron Kirchi as my teacher. And Ron Kirchi basically said, make every line filmable. So don't write a line that I cannot film. So that stuck with me. I don't know why. He said so many other things, but that line. So every time I write a line, I think, Ron Kirchi, can I film this line? If I can't, have to fix it. So that's my dreams.
Comments? Okay, now you don't want to keep embarrassing you on the front. So you glad you came?
I'm very happy to be here, man. I can't even speak. Nice.
Any other thoughts? Oh, yes.
Thank you for no introduction to the poem.
Oh, you like that, huh? Oh,
Yeah. Say it, then, okay. Okay.
And it's funny because that was the first thing that I caught once you guys started. I was like, oh, there's no spiel. It's just, but I was fascinated by that. It changed everything.
How did it sound? What do you mean by that? How does it change?
My relationship with the work. I wasn't thinking about the meaning or what it's supposed to say. You know, I was able to sit here, close my eyes for much of it and just visualize what the words, you know, what carries of that and how I relate to action.
I have a question that I comment. I'm so glad that you did what your teacher told you. I would like to say this, but your teacher told you about kind of showing every line, because I have been sitting here trying to figure out what it is about your poetry that makes me feel like I have been dropped into whatever scenario that you are setting up. And it's so helpful to know that that's what you're trying to do, that we really come through. Maybe when you go, I'll give what's that one.
Yeah, I have for insurance, very similar. I was thinking that one thing that I like when you guys go and go through lessons and we're doing really, and without intro, it becomes much more musical, and that is pretty obvious. So I was really enjoying the music. But then we are discussing those, it's also more visual, and I didn't know why. And then at the second round, I figured it's because one of you in the poem was picking up some striking image. For example, the easy one was the planet. And the next one picked up something planetary. And because you didn't wait for the intro, you had evoked that image and didn't have the time to let it go out from our visual mind because you wrote it down. And it worked very well with the women mothers. You just, somebody wrote up this woman with some detail of dress and she kind of lingered and the other went to that. So the images stood and became more visual. And this lovely temple.
That description. Did y'all want to say anything?
I mean, you are right, but it made me as a writer, as I'm sitting here, really listen to what they have to say. And I pick up words from people involved. And also, yeah, that one is it's so perfect. It's usually what clear to study. So yeah, as a writer sitting here, sometimes I would zone out whenever I'm another reading, but now I
Paul, did you want to say anything? We're doing this together. This happens to be my friendship.
That poet reading poetry.
That's right. My mother would recite poetry. Back in babies, and I would say a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, reciting poetry, especially memorizing and reciting poetry, is basically part of the curriculum. So my mom would sit at the dinner table, and we would be talking about marriage. And all such shit, get up and start reciting poems. So, or we were talking about the food and all such, she'll get up and start talking about food. So I mean, the most amazing part about this whole story is that for the later part of her life, she had dementia. And she did not remember our names, our children's names, but she remembered. That was nice. But she had all these like thankful poems. I was just, my mom, we said the poem about, so and so. She would remember it. She would go right into the poem. But I would ask her, what's my daughter's name? But she'll, wasn't she married? So that's the gift.
Oh, I just have a last question for Beth, because it seems like your poems have so much to do with love, and I'm just wondering, how do you know so much about love and you?
My partner Danny is the president. That's right there. And some other. I retired from teacher class.
Oh, great. That is cool. Well, definitely don't knock on my door. It was fair. That doesn't keep me from trying. Like, this whole book is love and erotic poems in Spanish and English. So there you go. Stop.
I was just gonna say, I've been at a poetry reading that affected me so emotionally, not just the poems. I'm sitting here and crying with the poems. I'm astounded and listening to the poets, the 2-year-old, the mother, the dementia. I mean, all of these stories are incredible. And I want to know why you're such good poets. Now I know. Just have to start at 2.
No, seriously, thank you for that. I mean, as I said at the top, the sort of aesthetic motivation for this format. It's not the only I have no problem. We could have certainly, Carla could have read our bios like they do it in the average reading in academia. We could have sat, done 15-minute readings. It's cool. I mean, it's not in and of itself a bad thing. I'm certainly not making a case in a sort of yucky critical way that it's not valuable. There's times for that. And, there's times for like next month's workshop. We will get into these kinds of nuances of motivation and word choice, even though there'll be a ballet dancer right in the middle of the room, or the guy who plays steel payment. And we'll have the artwork from the portfolio projected. So we want to just keep plunging you into dimensions, is really what it is. But I must say, I am biased toward this approach because it privileges the poetry itself, not the poet, which is fine. Right now, I have this role that I wear. My real clothes says I'm the Poet Laureate Editor-in-Chief of Altadena. So it's fine. There are certain roles that I have, certain ceremonial roles that I have. But in terms of and of course, we go with Toni Morrison or other people who are our acknowledged masters. When they're in the room, we come as much to literally hear them breathe and tell stories as to read their work. We already know we're going to buy the book or we're going to You know, we've already read the stories, the novels, or the poems, or whatever. I think one of the powerful things, I don't know, and if Carl believes this, but for me, and I'm certainly on record with this in my interview, and you know, when the first time we met the board of trustees, is I believe that the poetry, it has the capacity to hold so much. So you can go into an elementary school and of course tap into the little babies like vivid imagination that's like running like stallions across their lives. And all you gotta do is say something to a teenager, a kid, and they're like, okay, and they're mixing and matching, and you got poetry of astounding vitality. Poetry can also do some of the work that we're doing here. You know, this everything from reading a newspaper article about Saturn, the kinks in the rings, to the beautiful pieces that Ms. Dutton just mentioned. So what we wanted to just do today is invite you into this format. Now, I won't lie and say, I wish that every reading I go to from here on out, I just get to hear Carla or Seba or Gloria or Alicia Bogle Signs. Tell me your name again.
Wait.
Or Brother Wade. Just come on up and kill with the work. I don't expect that to change necessarily, but I can tell you what we wanted to do especially since it's a morning reading, it's like Saturday, and I think we're working. Oh God, I got a reading goes at 11 a.m. Are you kidding? We wanted to make it easy on you, and embrace you. We wanted to hug you, do a Saturday hug. You know what I mean? And then next November, that'll start at 11, totally different vibe. You know, steel pan. Everybody know what a steel pan, the instrument is? So it'll be ringing throughout this library. I told Alan, the guy, the musician, be prepared to have a bunch of kids come running in here before it's over. Okay, so we talked, it's about 12:28. We have a window till 1, but what I'd like to propose is we do a round. Let's go 2 rounds, you think? How y'all feel? Can you handle 2 rounds? I mean, a round of 2, whatever's we're doing. And then I tend to like to end with the poetry ringing. So is there any business outstanding, any technical stuff? Madam Carla, do you have anything you want to say about upcoming stuff or about what you want people to think about as they think about the rest of the year?
Say something that I want to hear the poetry, and joining this and being a part of this, because that's something about poetry is kind of a combination of the poet, the speaker, the poem, and what you take away. So it's really international. It's like a story. So it's like it becomes something brand new.
Yeah. And we just tell people you don't have to be a poet to come to these things. We're all creative folks. We all have the imaginative like prism in our humanity. And we tell people, even if you just want to be read to, like you're a kid, come to a poetry. All of that. So, final bit of business before we kick off. When we finish this round, it'll just resolve, hopefully. All this is, nobody's selecting their work in advance. They don't know what I'm gonna read or vice versa. So if it rings, dap us. If it doesn't, say, don't mess that last part up. But we'll be back. Definitely wanna buy Shahid's book, and Beth should have a book out, but probably will before too long. Truly, Altadena resident, Pasadena resident, and educator. So we are surely like right in the pocket of our mission with Altadena Poets Laureate program. We're smack in the pocket. So, any other questions or thoughts? And let's get that. White August clouds, hugging dry mountains, float above my path, sob for me. Rinse regrets off my tongue, cool temperature of my grudges, seep into the fossilized evasions, ruining my reputation, lightning my regrets, thunder my grudges, watershed recharge by hissing of losses that undo me. If I just get it down, I feel invincible against grief, hipper than Gregory Hines and tap shoes. White clouds of August make me into water. Wash my face, wash my hands, wash my feet.
April's omens. Because the squirrel came when I called. I know the check is in the mail. Because there was the best cherry pie in the room. Because we got the last one. Because the undercarriage took a hit, but I didn't lose any oil. I can see ease coming like Odysseus with his oil. I can feel Grace's mystery wrapping me in a rose of wind. The car made the whole drive. The house didn't catch fire. Surrender pinned us like an old flame to a motel bed in Death Valley. Look at the purple flowers, the seed drift like snow, the immigrant sparrows singing. There will be bread on the table. Another earthquake of gold, a raft of songs birthed from the wide and heartless sea. The crow shook rain from the tree onto our heads. You called and I came. The paper adorned itself with longing, wet and high across the plains of our mouths. The stars are pulling us along in the wagon of our bed. Look, the feather, that cloud. My hand enormous.
First love. Her smile made him forget all the hungry children in the ghettos of Beirut. All the mothers scavenging for rotten vegetables at the chicken market. All the fathers who carried defective guns to protect water pipes, bridges, milk trucks, and wounded hospitals. Her smile added a bounce to his walk, a hop and a skip over dead pigeons, skeletal cats, and rats that chewed on shoestrings. He dodged bullets in the alleys and blew kisses at snipers who used sandbags to veil their eyes. He stole lilies from sidewalk shrines with melted candle wax on drooping petals. She smiled.
You braid your hair with a comb of cactus teeth, stroking gel and laughter from the prickly straws releases the passing days from your face. When your eyelashes rest and you feel guidance coming on, you bundle dry thorns and coax a fire from the kindle. You burn fresh cut herbs to clean the air and fill my head with aching fantasies. You read the smoke, tell time without a clock. Inhale the night, exhale faces hovering above the flame. You sift the rattle of the wind for necessary intervention. We no longer cry, speak only in riddles and proverbs. This is the timeless life. I am the timeless seeker of a holy woman, possessed by sight and love and patience, the salvation of water and amber and touch. This is the timeless life. I am the timeless seeker of a holy sister, nourished by starlight and spirit flight and incantation, the salvation of clay and onyx and touch. This is the timeless life. I am the timeless seeker of a holy lover, blessed by praise and desire and delight, the salvation, smile, and truth, and touch. You set a table for a banquet of cactus meat. You perfume your skin with the spring flower between the quills. You douse the fire with libation, invoked in the language of humility and awe. This is the timeless life. I am a holy seeker, a timeless woman, dancing within embers of the dying shadows, dancing within stiletto shadows of the cactus flower.
Los Dios. Uncle Pablo drank silver cans of Coors and braided his hair with ribbon and tiny shells. He would always appear near Easter on our annual trip to Raging Waters and couldn't stop from picking us girls up by our sticky hands and spinning us until we were as close to drunk as children could get. Said he could turn into a coyote, a hawk, or the spider that startled Aunt Georgia senseless. Had a pocket of secret rocks that could pull the sun from the gray sky like a tree from the sea. Showed me once, look closely, he said, and it was made of stars. Uncle Angel could only visit on the 5th Wednesday of a leap year, had not a limb not riven with rivers of scars, seams between countries, crossings of the last 2 shores. When he did visit, he sat in the wooden shack of our great aunts, which was a school older than school. He would fill the air with sweet pipe tobacco and slowly drink a grand canyon of pores and speak a steady stream of truths. Holes in the chest held shut with testaments, the black feathers of the guides, the coins made in the throats of us were made of song. If you open a window onto the snow, you can hear his voice, a low hum of endings and their sweet asylum, the arms that come for us all.
History of forgetfulness. She might finally forget my name when she's dicing onions on the chopping block. For now, mother can't pinpoint my daughter's birthday. She recites random months like January and August, until I remind her it's in July. She forgets to swallow her blood pressure pills, so she leaves church early. After she calms her heart, she drinks Turkish coffee. No one knows why she clips coupons for Campbell's tomato soup. She makes illegal U-turns just to make sure the burner under the pressure cooker is off. She can't sleep at night, but when she closes her eyes, she remembers everything.
Painting by numbers, hymn to the mother, Charles Laureate. Excerpt. Ballerinas in a pas de deux pirouette on wall of our living room. Graceful sentinels remind us of Ma's warning. Never slam front door number 304, but she has labored to curate serenity for a family of 5. And a museum within our 2-bedroom apartment. Books multiplying to become an intimate Black History Month walkthrough. LPs hinting at my future's eclectic cultural rambles. Andre Watts at the Hollywood Bowl. John Denver, take me on country roads. Rachmaninoff, I learned, is not a student. Leontine Price stuns my ear into evolution. Was that Paul Robeson climbing Jacob's ladder? Mom's subtle brushstrokes multiplied miniature blue numbers into a haunting whole. Charles Lloyd's Hymn to the Mother. Concentration in song. Calling through calling. Invoking her delicious reverence for life. Illuminating her persistence. Revealing hope she wore on oval face of an abandoned child. Echoing her passions to live beyond prescriptions of childhood diseases. Shape-shifting her contours beyond whims and codes on bureaucratic forms. Shaping invisible numbers on white cardboard. Praising her, harvesting her with musical brushstrokes that shepherd my return to a modest 2-bedroom crib across the Anacostia River. An official orphan bookmarks another random chapter, a sacred book for haunted lovers. Transcribes lessons from a January mother with a summer name, an oracle named June, taken way, way, way too soon.
Ghost watches the breakup. You are stooped in the shower. My hand wet against your baffled hair. Your voice, an ambulance seeking a red light to scream. I sit on the lip of the tub and hum on. Turn the knob up and you start to shiver. I don't mean to wake you every night, just when the half-hour turns toward the smell of dawn, but old habits die hard. Even the dead can only stand so much silence. I'm smoothing the sheets when you come in and drop your keys. I travel your gasping air and unhook his words from your throat until you can breathe again. Straighten your pens. I hold the fluttering bird of your hand while you sleep. When I first drew you this map of shuddering songs, I didn't know how faded your fingers would make it, tracing the path to the edge of yourself. I couldn't know your heavy arias would lift me back and back, that every time your heart broke, I would come pouring out.
Inner city with father. In our last conversation, he sat on a milk crate, held unlit cigarette like a fountain pen, and kept tapping the filter against his weak heart, as if he wanted to offer a final walkthrough inside his chambers, dispose the melted snow of Mount Ararat, wrap the warped Comanche of Sayat Nova in rags, tuck Mama's grape leaves like love letters in the left ventricle. Beethoven blocked a coronary, and a cadenza full of sonnets pushed against his aorta. That's the ashen smoke of Beirut. That's the bloated bridge of Bruges. And that's you, he said, my failing duplicate.
I'm very. That's Marquez. Thank you, guys. See you next time.